Well, we're delighted to have you on board, Tim, as Daniel Vittoria is continuing, the evergreen, bespectacled darling, and he's pushed to mid-off for no run by Warner. The Aussies are 68 for 1 here in the 11th over Watson and Warner, two of our favourites. And there's a little dab here from Davy Warner for a single on the leg side. Knuckle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty.
And welcome back all. England at lunch, lead by a little matter 421, 375 for 7. The not out batsmen Sibley and Sam Curran. Sibley debut 100 and defied so many of the critics with his slightly odd style. It's idiosyncratic, but what he does have is that old-fashioned quality of concentration, and he does like to bat for a long period of time, which is a particularly valuable commodity in modern day cricket, because not many do, and he's anchored the innings and anchored it very well for England, and allowing everyone else to play around him, and that and the combination of a fairly volcanic innings from Ben Stokes puts England in, well, you should never say impregnable, because cricket is a strange game, or can be, but it would need to be a record run chase in the history of Test cricket for South Africa to chase down 421 plus whatever England get after lunch. They'll probably, if they're not bowled out, which they may very well be, but if they're not bowled out, declare after 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. But I think if England bat for 45 minutes, the chances are they might well be bowled out anyway.
I think that's so. I mean, I think Sibley is, frankly, and I don't blame him, looking for a bit of a red inker here. And frankly, in his shoes, I would be too, because it's no bad thing to boost your average. And because if he in a poor run of form, if they look at it and he's averaging 37 instead of 30, that can sway a selector.
Yeah, this isn't a situation where Dom Sibley just batting as he is will hurt the team, because England already have at least 100 too many, probably.
Well, possibly so, and also the field's being set that there are plenty of singles for if he needs just to rotate the strike. Look, he's not a big hitter of the ball, and Curran, as we know, can be destructive. I mean, Anderson and Broad, I'm not sure to them batting.
I agree. I think England should declare when the next wicket falls, because I don't think there's anything to be gained from Broad or Anderson batting.
And there's something to be lost if they got hit in the hand and heaven forbid they broke a finger.
Yeah, I mean, there's minor comedy to be gained from Stuart Broad. I think Stuart Broad's had a number of very funny dismissals, but I think his dismissal in the first innings of this test may have been the funniest. But anyway, we'll have the man who seems to have made a deal with the devil resuming on 13 not out.
Indeed.
Is he a batter or bowler? Sam Curran. What's his distinguishing feature? Sam Curran. His dad's from Zimbabwe. Sam Curran. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Sam Curran.
We'll resume on 30 not out, and it'll be the persevering Maharaj to bowl
Poor
to
bastard.
him. Yeah, I do feel sorry for him. Anyway, he bowls to Curran, who's beaten by a nicely flighted ball that maybe just turned an inch or two, but enough to beat the outside edge, and a bit of a prod from Curran through to Cock, and there is no run. He's got one slip in place, and Curran comes down the track, doesn't quite get to the ball, just plays it carefully back to the bowler, and again there is no run.
So he did bowl unchanged this morning?
He did, having bowled 22 overs in a row yesterday.
Maharaj in bowls, Curran pulls, and straight to mid-wicket, who fields neatly.
He's out.
Oh, he's out.
He carried. I beg his pardon. It did carry. He spooned it. I thought he'd hit it hard down to the ground. And we see a close-up of an old South African hooker and Saracen's man. Curran spooned that. I thought he'd initially hit it down into the ground. He goes off shaking his head. It was there for the pull. It was a drag down delivery. He pulled it. I thought he hit it quite well, but it just carried. Actually, quite a neat catch by Hamza, and took it neatly. And Curran's innings is out. Will they continue?
Yeah, a couple of damage limitation wickets for Keshav Maharaj, who has plugged away manfully, doing a job that he should never have been asked to do for this long.
I don't mind the fact that spinners bowl long periods. I mean, you've seen already in this Test match, both Maharaj in the first innings and Dom Best in South Africa's first innings bowl long containing spells. What I object to here is that he has been asked to do a job that he's hardly ever done before, bowling over the wicket to the right-hander into the rough there. There was a stat given out that before this Test match he bowled in that style 3% of his Test career. He hardly ever does it. He's clearly not keen to do it. He's not very good at doing it. And it was obviously he's been told to do it by his captain, who I don't rate as a captain. A new man to the crease. It is the hapless.
What would make Broad walk?
If his stumps were knocked down,
What would make Broad walk?
caught 5 feet off the
What
ground.
would make Broad walk?
If he trod on his
What would
stumps,
make Broad walk?
if God was one of the
What
odds.
would make Broad walk?
Broad walk.
What Broad?
Well, the only thing in his favour is this is the sort of pace of bowling he quite likes. Anything above Maharaj's pace, he might well be edging towards square leg. First ball, he plays a little paddle sweep, doesn't beat the man at the 45, and he remains not out. 375 for 8. Jimmy Anderson, I can believe news, is padded up. Maharaj in bowl. Stuart Broad tries to leg glance, doesn't get anything on it. Poor ball by Maharaj, and well taken by de Kock.
Is he actually padded up, or has he just got his whites on?
No, I'm pretty sure he had pads on there as well. Could you find Maharaj in bowls and a nominated sweep shot and a good bit of that ball bounced awkwardly for the man just backward of square, and he was going to his right and then had to jackknife back to his left hand side, and he saved, in so doing he probably saved 4. That's the end of a successful over by Maharaj, who's picked up a wicket with a poorish ball, but I suppose if you bowl long enough you're going to get bad wickets get bad balls get wickets, as we all know in all forms of cricket. Knuckle, can you look me something up? At his peak of his batting, Test match batting, what was Stuart Broad's highest Test average?
I will look that up in a second.
Thank
We
you.
do have a few tweets after the resumption, people who've joined us. Apparently Darren Lehman's Twitter account has been hacked, which is all fun and games. Linux Leah says, listening to the Bear getting basic facts about classic sci-fi TV science fiction wrong during the lunch break is kind of infuriating. On Crick Tracker, we do have lots of people joining us on Crick Tracker, facebook.com/Crick Tracker. Bhavesh Gurdik says, fuck, I'm not really sure why. Phoenix Abdul says, okay. Bahadusha Bava is making a political point, with which I agree, regarding the Modi government and their attempts to basically make being Muslim in India very difficult. Phoenix Abdul says, okay. Sidrana Sekara says, good. Mahbub Ahmed says something not very particularly nice. Ato Rahman and Zulfikar Ali are with us.
Rabada in bowls, a ball just back of a length, and Sibley plays yet another defensive shot back to the bowler. Rabada looks somewhat reluctant to be bowling. He doesn't look best pleased with life. That was just over 80 miles an hour, and he looks to be bowling, shall we say, well within himself.
Here's his jingle.
What's his name?
He's a high roller, rock and roller, scariest, deadliest, killing this bowler.
And he's in bowls, and Sibley squirts this away off a thickish outside edge, square into the offside. Should just be a single, and is Elgar doing the fielding, and jogs in with the ball in his hand, doesn't bother throwing. Broad now in the face of Rabada. Now you'd have thought Rabada might be slightly more interested to bowl to the hapless Stuart Broad. This is surely wicket number 199 for KG Rabada. The lead
Not sure what advice Dom Sibley is giving Stuart Broad there. Possibly don't leave a straight one. Could be.
Or don't get your bat trapped behind your bat pad.
I think Dom Sibley is batting for the carried bat,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and why not?
which of course doesn't actually count until the innings is, unless the innings is completed.
Yeah.
Yep, indeed. But with Anderson, seem to have been padded up, so there's every chance that he could carry his bat. Doesn't happen very often these days. He happen more often in Boyk's day.
Dean Elgar's done it 3 times.
Yes, that's more to do with the hapless nature of the South African batting below him, I'd have said. But
I think he's
well, he's got a bit of company around the bat. He's got a slipper gully, a leg gully, which is a good position to Stuart Broad, and a forward short leg, and he goes short. And Broad might be getting off the mark. He is, as he bunny hops into a defensive shot, and it pops out onto the offside into a gap, and it allows him to get off strike to face the sheer raw pace of Rabada's next Maharaj's next over. 377 for 8. Broad is on 1. Sibley 126. The lead 423.
Yeah, this period of the game isn't really adding very much, unless Joe Root just wants a bit of a laugh. Like that, as we see Stuart Broad leading an off-stump Yorker from Kaiser Rabada in the first innings.
Yes, I mean, his batting has declined from a position of some note at one point during his career, but I mean, never has it been as hapless as it is currently.
Even a couple of years ago, he was good for the odd flashy 20.
Correct. I mean, now he's completely gone in the brain. Rabada in bowl. Sibley comes forward defensively, pushing it down to mid-on, and there is no run.
Weakling Child on Twitter says, desperately want to see Sibley kick Rabada away.
Well, he may very well do. He doesn't. What I like about him, he just continues to bat in his fashion, which is absolutely fine. Don't change your style at all. This is what's got you to 126 not out. Just continue.
And more to the point, it's what's got him into the England team.
Indeed, back time. I mean, he did it for Surrey. He does it for Warwickshire. Now he's doing it for England. It may not be very pretty. I don't give a stuff. Next ball is full and push driven to mid on, and there is no run.
I mean, I'd kind of like to stop talking about Sibley's style and his pace in the same way that I think talking about Steve Smith's style at the crease is pointless.
The only currency that matters in cricket as a batsman is the number of runs you get, and if you get them consistently, I don't care if you do it with your eyes shut. If you can do it, do it. He's got an idiosyncratic method. I don't mind. He dabs the next ball out onto the offside, and there is no run. There's a key attribute that he's got, which is massively overlooked, and it's the same with Cook. Lots of people said Alistair Cook, he got thousands and thousands of test runs, but he really wasn't very talented. And I would counter that with the greatest talent he had was his ability to concentrate for days on end, and that should not be overlooked as an ability.
No, I mean, it's really difficult, and you have to be really, really fit to be able to concentrate for that long.
And mentally strong. And it's very easy to play T20 and all this jazz cricket. It's very difficult to bat for a day and a half in Abu Dhabi or somewhere like that, when it's searingly hot.
By the way, wow, Stuart Broad's highest test average was 41.22.
And when was that?
18th of July 2008, so when South Africa were here in 2008.
So he really hadn't played very many test matches then at all.
It was his 8th test match.
Yeah, okay.
He did get a few flashy scores in that series.
Broad sweeps and gets that past the man on the 45. There's a chase on, the ball's going to win it, and it's going to be one of these.
I'm just going to look up what Stuart Broad's average was at the point he was hit in the face by Varun Aaron.
That would be interesting now, because I was there at Lord's when he made his 100 against Pakistan, and England were in some bother at the time. I think Trott got some runs as well.
They had an enormous partnership.
Yeah,
but Pakistan put 8 fielders on the boundary for Broad at one point.
Oh, they did, but I mean, that was after he got some runs. The next ball is fuller, and Broad squirts it away through the gully region. He wants to get off strike. I'm not sure why. You don't want to get down to Rabada's end. Stay, milk the spinner, you nitwit. It remains 381 for 8, a lead of 427.
Okay, so it was at Old Trafford that Broad was hit in the face by that bouncer from Varun Aaron.
An attempted slog sweep by Stuart Broad from ball. I know he's a tall man, he's got long arms, but he tried to fetch that from about 1.5 yards outside off stump. It's ambitious. He didn't get anything on it. De Kock got a little bit on it, just about parried the ball, and there is no run. As is the way, if you've been in the field that long, the fielding gets a little bit untidy. Stuart Broad tries to play and almost sobers like back foot punch drive through the offside, misses the ball entirely, taken by de Kock, and there is no run.
So at that point, his test average was about 23, 24. It's now 18.5.
23, and that was what, 2010?
2014 when he got hit in the face.
2014. A horrible hike by Stuart Broad. Frankly, that would have been a disgraceful shot in the under-9s. It hits him around the hip area, and it dribbles out onto the offside. He's just forgotten how to bat. I mean, his dad must be tearing his hair out.
He's come out with one shot in this innings.
Yeah.
He'll try another sweep here. Oh, no, maybe
He
not.
tries to flick this away off his pads. He gets hit on the thigh pad or the pad, dribbles out onto the onside. It completes quite an amusing over, and one shot played.
Just going back onto the point you made about Sibley and his style, it's very similar to Rory Burns. He's not changed. The style that got him all the runs for Surrey and why he's in the team. And I think England may have stumbled on two.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, because Test cricket is called Test cricket because it is a test, and it examines, particularly at the top of the order, it examines your character. And I mean, I realise I'm an awful lot older than you two guys, but I remember loads of opening batsmen who were bloody ugly.
Yeah.
People like Edrich, Bill Lorry.
I'm a bit later than that. I mean,
Hanif Mohammed. I mean, not that he was ugly, but he was just bloody obdurate. He could bat for days. And particularly in the modern era, when you've got loads of men down the order who can accelerate the scoring, as we've seen today, Rabada in bowls, and Sibley punches that slightly airily past Rabada's left hand. It was never a chance, down to Philander at deepest set mid-off.
Turning singles down
And
now.
he's now protecting Broad well, and he's only 427. Mind you, having watched Broad bat in the last over, I can see why he is protecting him.
Although it was probably worth noting that Root and Stokes were in their whites, so I don't think
Stokes hasn't changed out of his white since he got out.
Root has. Root is now in his whites though, so that could be worth keeping an eye on.
Rabada bowls, Sibley flicks this away through vacant mid-wicket. Is he going to take a single? No,
Could
can't be
walk
asked.
too.
Can't be asked. Just can't be asked. How miffed do you think Jimmy Anderson is feeling now? That he is batting below Stuart Broad.
Stokes just made the universal sign for give it a whack,
slog.
lad.
Yeah, it's not his game. No, Dom, you just continue. Pick up singles. Pick up the singles, fella. Give it to Broad. Look, if Broad wants to play a couple of heave-ho shots, let him. Just pick up your singles. Rabada in bowls. Sibley dabs that away. That's almost late cut down to finish third man, and
They did take the run.
They have taken the single this time.
Not so much a late cut as a delayed cut.
Yeah.
Sort of, at the last minute, just sort of thrust his arse out towards square leg and
But
blocked
it's a perfectly legit shot. There's nobody within a mile of it, and there's a huge gap there.
It's fine. It just looked funny.
But it does give Stuart Broad the opportunity of facing three balls against Rabada, which should be amusing in itself.
And having his toe or face broken. I've been saying for most of the summer that technique is a means to an end for batters, and with Smith and Sibley and Burns, obviously Smith is way above those two in terms of a class of batter, but what they all have is they're very still at the point of where the bowler releases the ball, and their head is pretty much always in line.
Rabada in bowls, and Broad plays a nominated pull shot. He backed away almost onto the square leg umpire's feet, wafted the ball. I guess the best he could have hoped there, top edge over the keeper's head, 2 bounces for, didn't get anything on it, and goes down and prods the pitch nowhere near where the ball landed.
He's just widening that crack a little bit.
Well, that's not a bad thing. I mean, do some guard. I mean,
Rabada is bowling from the end where there is that crack.
Yeah.
Where Stuart Broad was bowling so well in the first innings.
And more on that in a moment as Rabada in bowls, and Broad jumps into an attempted defensive shot, and it gets hit somewhere up around probably his chest guard, and it dribbles out onto the onside, and there is no run. Given that there must be little, actually it was off his glove, a bit of bat handle, given that there must be little bits coming out of the pitch around that crack mark, if I'm with England batsman now, I'm just deliberately at the end of each over, or even after every ball, going down there and with my hands sweeping those away to extenuate the crack. He spooned this. He's attempted to give catching practice to Van der Dusen. That really was a horrid shot. Why is this innings continuing if he's going to bat this badly? A silly point would have gobbled that up. They didn't have a silly point. Root is standing there with one hand on his hip thinking, this is mildly amusing. I'm quite enjoying watching the egomaniac Stuart Broad batting like a complete prune. I'll let it continue for a couple more
You can
overs.
see Stokes to his left, who is visibly about to leap out of his chair.
But to be honest with you, time doesn't really matter now.
Well, they haven't got to worry about the weather tomorrow.
No, that, and you if you can't bowl a side out in 130 overs, 135 overs, you don't deserve to win anyway.
Cricket trackers, we do have Ranjit Singh, Rajan is with us. Annie Chave, our friend, is with us as well. And on Twitter, Weakling Child says, watching Broad bat with the Benny Hill theme is playing as one of life's great pleasures. And Messi Jazz sends in some stats backing up what we were saying about the decline of Stuart Broad's batting. Sent in by Crickviz.
Yeah. Well, it has been dramatic, frankly.
But that's
Yes. Wow. From 2016 to now, he averages 10.57 with the bat.
Jeepers. But at least he's become a proper tail ender now, so it's fun.
Indeed, a reverse sweep, and rather well played by Dom Sibley. The chase on, ball wins. Nicely placed shot there from Sibley. He's bowling outside his leg stump into the rough, and it was full enough for him to play the reverse sweep. He played it well. Didn't try to overhit it. Just got some decent bat on it. Quick outfield.
Again, I feel really sorry for Maharaj because they know that the England batsman can play that shot when it's outside leg stump, but there's no one at deep point or deep third man.
Now a conventional sweep, and he beats the man on the 45.
Fine leg.
There is a man deep. It's Philander, and he's woken up just about in time to keep him down to one, which means the comedy continues. We got Broady on strike. This is what we want. 387 for 8. A lead is 433.
I just don't understand what Maharaj is supposed to do with this field.
Well, I suppose until now, I mean, I haven't seen it all today, but has Sibley reverse swept today before?
A couple of times. But
I think he played one this morning, didn't
Did he?
A couple of
I mean,
times.
it's not-
Root was doing it consistently, so was Stokes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can understand why with Root and Stokes in there, you'd have a man on there. I'm not sure that I'd necessarily have one there for Sibley. A slog from Stuart Broad, heaved down to long on. Van der Dusen were doing the fielding, and they jogged through for a single. Oh, shame. We wanted Broady on strike.
Oh.
It's far funnier. 388 for 8.
So if England declare us, it won't count as a carried bat.
No.
But I do wonder when would have the last time an England opener was not
Cook.
out? Was it Cook?
It was Cook at the MCG.
Really?
Did he carry his bat,
he
or did
did.
they
that
declare?
that 244.
Dreadful pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as bad as Lords for the World Cup final. A fine sweep. There is a man there. I was going to say on the 45, but he's more on the sort of angle of a 30-degree angle.
Acute angle.
Yeah, so it was an acute angle. Going back to my O-level maths. He bowls over the wicket. A reverse sweep again from Dom Sibley. Plays that just in front of square. Would he pick up a single? Elgar doing the fielding. They do jog through for a single, and Sibley will be on strike at the end. Oh, is that the end of the over? Or is
One
five
ball
gone?
left.
Five. Sorry, I thought that was the sixth ball. One to go. Can Broad survive? Sheer raw pace of Maharaj. 389 for 8. Lead 435.
I actually don't. I think Knackle was right as what he's saying about Maharaj's field, because I don't actually think he's bowled that badly. I didn't see all the play yesterday, but I don't think he's bowled terribly today.
No, I mean he was bowling obviously very much to Fuff's instructions yesterday.
Maharaj in bowls, and
hello.
a slog sweep from Stuart Broad. How much has he got on that? Has he found the gap? Yes, he has. A nice little wedge shot to the green, and he's found the gap, and they can jog through for 2.
4 years ago, Broad would have hit that better and he would have been caught.
There we go.
there we
go. He's decided to declare England 391 for 8. A lead of 437. Broad 8 not out, and unlikely 8 not out. Sibley 133 not out of 311 balls. He's going to get a standing ovation from his teammates and the mostly English crowd there, or English supporting crowd, and fully deserved to. That's a tremendous effort. He's anchored the innings from beginning to end, and to face over 300 balls in Test cricket is an achievement in itself.
497 minutes as well. Fine innings, and I'm glad he gets the red inker.
Yeah,
leads
everyone off
Yeah.
quite rightly. So 133 of 311 balls, 19 fours and 1 6, and he did accelerate after getting to the 100 quite significantly. So not only has he done superb work for himself, but he's also done at various stages of this innings precisely what the team have needed him to do.
Indeed,
It's been a fantastic innings by Dom Sibley.
He's ended with a strike rate of just over 42, which considering, as you say, early on in the piece, he was going quite slowly. But I mean, you look at some of Ben Stokes's more established Test innings.
Well,
I mean, go back to Headingley.
3
You
off
know,
76.
He's 2 off 70 overnight, wasn't he, or something like that. And then we all know what happened thereafter. And batsmen can accelerate. No, I'm not saying Sibley will ever be as explosive a batsman as Ben Stokes. Clearly, he won't. But you can accelerate, and cricket has a way of changing it. You know, particularly against South Africa, they're going to go defensive. They're going to go defensive early. They're going to set the field back. There's going to be plenty of ones and twos as a result. And batting, the longer you bat, the easier it gets.
Yeah, and England ended up scoring at 3.5 and over. I mean, they could have scored even slower than that and probably still have been in a pretty good position. But I don't even want to put any more caveats. It was a fantastic innings by Dom Sibley against a decent attack, who certainly for the first 35 or 40 overs or so bowled pretty well on a pitch that is wearing quite a lot. Kagiso Rabada is a fantastic bowler. Vernon Philander is an all-time great bowler. Anrich Nortje is genuinely fast and looked quite promising. Maharaj is a decent spin bowler. Dwayne Pretorius has done all right.
Yeah,
and this is not an easy pitch to bat on by any means. And I cannot praise Sibley's innings highly enough.
I think that's right. And I mean, as you say, South Africa's strength definitely is their bowling rather than their batting. That's a decent attack. It's not a world-beating attack, but it's a decent attack. If you look at down the rankings in world bowling, both Philander and Rabada are right up there. I think they take their wickets at 19,
22.
20, 21, something like that.
Yeah, and Rabada's strike rate is outrageous.
Yeah.
That's a world-class new ball attack in any conditions.
It is, and to get through that, and just to know that you've done it, means, that must just give you so much confidence as a batsman, thinking, well, look, I've done this away from home, I've done it in foreign conditions, I've done it at Newlands against a really good new ball attack. Then you think, well, I've done it once, why can't I do it 7, 8, 10 times?
Yeah, I think the point that Naka made, it was a great innings for the team as well, because he did, it could have been easy for him to get to 3 figures and continue on his pace, but the fact he kicked on, and England now in a very, very strong position to go on and win this game now, and obviously the bowling from Anderson in the first innings, and also Ollie Pope's knock in the first innings kept England in the game, but that innings is probably going to be crucial.
And he reaped the benefit of his own hard work, as did Stokes and to a lesser extent Butler, and Root actually, to be fair, who scored pretty quickly and was pretty fluent. But he helped wear South Africa down and then create those opportunities and turn them into a bit of a rabble, really, for the last sort of session and a bit.
Yeah, and you this may be the sort of first coming. Obviously, time will tell. But you've had 3 players, possibly 4, all in their early 20s, who have made considerable contributions to England's current position. You've got Pope, you've Dom Bess in the first innings, Sam Curran with, I know he's been there slightly longer than the rest, but 2 very important wickets in South Africa's first innings, and the timing of those wickets was important. And of course now Sibley scoring his 100. So I know people are saying, oh, doom and gloom, where are England going as a test nation? But I've never thought there's been a lack of ability there. I think there's been a lack of clarity of thought off the pitch. and possibly on it as well. And the changes I would make, I would immediately, I'd never have appointed anyone quite as stupid as Ashley Giles, as to do anything to do with the national side, any national side, be it shove halfpenny, let alone cricket. And the sooner they can reinstate Andrew Strauss, a man of credibility both on and off the pitch, frankly, the better. And I'm not convinced, despite England's position of strength here, I am not convinced by Root as captain. I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon early, but I think there's now a body of evidence there. He's captained 36 times. I don't think he's a natural. I'm not sure that he particularly enjoys it.
And it's clearly hurting his batting.
Without question, he was averaging 53, now seems to be averaging about 35 with the bat when he's captaincy, and England need those runs. And I think in somebody like Burns, they may well have somebody else who can do it and is probably there for the long haul.
I would tend to agree with that. I think actually the one thing worse than keeping the captaincy with Root would be giving it to the vice captain Stokes. I think that's just way too much.
Surely even Ashley Giles won't do that.
If
that's a silly thing to say. He might be listening to think that's exactly what he should be doing.
If you make Stokes captain, you'd have another situation like Flintoff.
Or both of them.
Yeah.
And that, as I recall, that didn't end well.
No, exactly. And obviously, Flintoff didn't do too badly. Had that winning in India when England drew India. It was just the shambolic Ashes tour.
He was a better Test captain when he was sober than when he was pissed.
Yes.
I think that would be fair.
But also his go-to move, and I suspect Stokes would be the same. Like Stokes already has to be told not to train.
Yeah.
Stokes' go-to move would be every time England were in a little bit of trouble, bring himself on and bowl himself into the ground. And England need Ben Stokes the player more than they need Ben Stokes the captain. I think the same is also true of Joe Root.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and what you don't know, it was perfectly reasonable to give Joe Root the captaincy, because you didn't know you don't know how it's going to affect the guy's batting. I mean, you look at somebody like Graham Gooch. He was enhanced as a batsman with the captaincy as a result of that.
Virat Kohli's taken his game to another level.
Well, I mean, he might have done that anyway. I mean, and that may be just to be the stage he was at. I mean, but you can almost visibly see people who like the responsibility, who thrive on it, and I just don't see that the Root is one of those. He looks weighed down by it more often than not.
Yeah, indeed. We do have a few tweets which will enliven the innings break with, which will be another sort of 6 minutes or so. Nicholas Fuster says, speaking of ugly technique, it seems a good share of the best openers of the last decade have these sort of ugly methods. Warner hasn't found a proper partner since Chris Rogers. Cook was England's only consistent opener. Andrew Strauss a bit, I guess, kind of counts as this decade, who wasn't ugly by any means, but was a somewhat limited player. And Graham Smith and Dean Elgar for South Africa. Arthur Patricia says, for fuck's sake, Root, could you not let Sibley get 2 more, you absolute bastard? Nestle Boy sends in a beautiful photo from somewhere up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. It says, mad that I can get full-strength 4G signal this remote and high up. It does look stunning out there. Chris Lotta says, Proteas only needing 438. Sounds familiar. Yes, indeed. That legendary one-day international at the Wanderers all those years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe go for it in 50 overs or so, play golf tomorrow.
They might have more chance of doing it in 50 overs than batting the time.
Well, that's possibly true.
I mean, the one thing South Africa can do is dig in.
They can, but when you go back to that side, they had quite a good batting lineup. They probably had Smith, Callis.
It was Smith and Gibbs opening.
Smith and Gibbs, with Callis must have been in.
Yes, he was.
De Villiers.
Maybe a little bit too early.
Boucher was definitely in there.
Lance Klusener, would have he played in that?
No,
game?
too late for Lance Klusener.
Might have been.
Maybe. Certainly, I think they had Sean Pollock down the order.
Yeah.
Andrew Hall, maybe.
Some of that.
Andrew Hall.
But
there's a name for the part.
Yeah, not a bad player, but certainly not in the class of those.
No, but I mean, that was a good side. Verging on great, wasn't it? I mean, they had some great players in there.
Yeah.
I mean, Callis is a great in any era.
Possibly the greatest.
No. No. There is only one answer to that, and that is Gary Sobers, as everybody knows.
Jack Callis was an absolutely extraordinary.
He was an extraordinary player, and Gary Sobers was better.
But yeah, obviously that was a very different set of circumstances. Australia had a half a good attack, and it was a particularly flat pitch. I think
tiny boundaries.
Yeah, and and altitudes. It's fun to have these little numerical coincidences.
And also, it sort of clears the mind. In a 50-50 game, there is no draw, so it's shit or bust. I mean, here there is in the back of South Africa's mind thinking, well, if we are really obdurate here, if we get off to a tolerably safe, solid start, there is a possibility. You've got to bat for just over a day and a half. What's it they've got left? 140, 35
almost
overs.
5 sessions.
Something like it's not impossible. Tough ask, but by no means impossible.
No, and particularly, Dean Elgar has carried his bat more times than any other player in Test cricket history. Faf du Plessis, we know how obdurate he can be. And there's, Rassie van der Dussen, I think, has given a good account of himself in Test cricket.
I think
so
he's
far.
had an awful lot of luck.
He has for sure. Hashim Amla had a lot of luck.
Hashim Amla was 2 classes better than Van der Dussen.
Sure, but again, it's early in his Test career and all that, all true, but it's a hell of an arse against a good attack. Certainly an all-time great in Anderson, an all-time very, very good in Stuart Broad, and some decent backup bowling as well. But the reply is about to start, and all of these questions will be answered.
And face up.
This land is your land.
As the first ball is filth down the leg side, and is leg glance for one of these.
My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
A nice freebie from Milan. Just needed to get bat on that, and so he did.
That is a loosener, if ever I've seen one.
Yeah, and should never happen in any form of cricket.
Well, they're up with a run, right?
Yeah, the head of the game. 3 slips in the gully in place. Anderson in bowls and angled in towards the batsman, and he just nudges it away on the onside, and there is no run.
I'll give a jingle for the other opener for South Africa.
Anderson in bowls. That's quite a good leave, really. A ball that started on the line of the 5th stump, angling in, but missed the off stump by 6 inches or so. Yes, let's always think it's closer than it is, but good judgment.
Yeah, completely. I think it probably would have passed over the top of off stump as well, which, despite the fact that the pitch is keeping a little bit low, I think you can largely leave on length, even against Anderson.
I think the trouble now in the 4th, I think that's easier to do in the first innings. I think with the variable bounce that there's bound to be around now. Anderson in bowls and another good leave, and taken by Butler, and there is no run.
It's hard to make a judgment on Peter Malan as a Test player because we've not really seen nothing, but certainly his first class record is very good over a number of years. It's 10 or 11 years, I think, since he made his first class debut, and he's been a very consistent performer. So he's another one a little bit like Burns and Sibley, who's done the hard yards in first class cricket.
Given that they've hardly had a plethora of good openers since Smith has gone, more after Anderson bowls the next ball, again left outside the off stump by Milan, and there's no run. He's 30 years of age. Why hasn't he been given a go before now?
Aidan Markham has been the project player. I think Aidan Markham is a good player,
But he's only been around for a couple of years? I mean, this guy's 30.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have thought, who was...
Heino Kuhn.
Oh, for heaven's sake. I mean, he was just a walking
he is another.
joke.
He had a couple of really good first class seasons and got his chance, but then wasted it.
He was undone by Anderson over here, wasn't he? He couldn't play the moving ball. Anderson in bowls. Milan leaves again, and Root again puts his hands to his head, but it was good judgment from Milan. End of the first over, 4 without loss, and as I say, up with the rate.
Linux Thea says, once again, England don't go past 400. Moral defeat. Spinner Grace says in response to Arthurshire, what is significant about 135? Nick Cricket says, if Sibley had got to 135 not out, he'd have a test average of 40. Which
Good
is,
knowledge.
Which
I mean,
is,
that's quite Anuraki, but I quite like that Anuraki element to it.
Yeah, Adam Ash still says, interesting discussion on guerrilla cricket during the innings break re the England captaincy. Do you need to pick a captain, then pick the team around him, even if he's not in the best 11?
No.
Who would that be?
No.
No, your captain's got to be worth your his place in the 11.
Without any question. Without any question. Look, England got away with it with Brearley, but too many people forget they got away with it with Brearley, but only during the Packer years. And there were consequently many international sides were substandard at the time because they were denuded of their
got
better
absolutely
players.
Humped by Australia when the Packer players came back.
They played that ridiculous 3-match series, which was organised almost overnight.
It's not officially counted as an Ashes series.
Well, I'm not surprised because it was only 3 matches. Broad round the wicket in bowls to Elgar, who strokes the ball neatly square through the offside and is also going to get off the mark with one of these. Width on offer, and Elgar just had to stroke the ball through a big gap. It was a foolish half volley, and just opened the bat base to guide the ball square through the offside. A good transference of weight and a good stride into the ball, head still, good shot.
Elgar batted very fluently in the first innings.
Which had a moment of madness.
Yes, that was odd.
Broad in bowls, ball angling back into Elgar, but starting too wide to interest the batsman. Taken low down by Butler to his right hand side, and there is no run.
Broad's immediately reverted to Warner mode, going round the wicket to the left-hander.
Well, he's had a lot of success.
He has.
With that mode, he
does it very well.
He does. I mean, he had Warner on toast, didn't he, in last summer. He never looked like getting a run. Broad, wide on the crease, angling towards Elgar, who tucks it off his hip. There's one. Crawley is quickly after it. Decent throw, and keeps them to that one. 9 without loss.
It's good to see, I think, a positive start from South Africa. It would have been very easy for them to just go into their shell. But, you know, they're looking to run between the wickets even whenever they get bat on ball.
Yes, I think that you've got to show intent, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's not even about showing intent. Like, you get in behind the ball, and if a run is on offer to you, take it.
But you just can't get into block mode. 3 slits gully, backward point, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a long leg. So inviting the drive through the offside. Strike the pad, big shout for LBW, must be very, very, very close. Was he outside the line? That was not going over, and
Broad will fancy this.
Oh, but did he ever? Is he going to? I think he was outside the line. I think it's umpire's call at best. Their time is almost up. Root is going to run out of time. No, he's not. Just got in time. On the button. They're going to review. I think this is at best umpire's call. I thought he was outside the line. What do you think?
Yeah, also outside the line. I said it immediately. Just about outside the line. It was certainly smashing into off stump.
I think it might be umpire's call.
Yeah, they might not lose the review. I think it's worth a look.
Not a no ball. Well done, Broady. Great improvement. And I'm sure there's no edge on this. He comes half forward. He's
hello.
struck on the back.
I think it hit the front pad first.
Did it? I mean, if it might just have flicked
inside
that.
edge.
Oh, he's hit it.
Has he hit it?
Inside edge.
Yeah, he's hit it.
Gosh, well, I didn't see that. None of us saw that. I didn't. Well, fair enough.
Yeah, good call from the umpire.
I suppose we won't know if he's given him out.
No, that's the annoying thing now, because I wanted to see whether the ball tracker said that was going out or not.
It's
on to hit the stumps. I think England have lost a review.
That was straighter than I thought it was. I thought it was hitting off stump. I think that might actually have been hitting middle. but for the inside edge.
It's quite a significant edge. Sometimes when they come off the inside edge, you can tell first
You can
time
see
you
it.
couldn't
No,
that time.
It was such. Because I was confident he hadn't got a nick on it, and obviously England were as well. Next ball is on the line of a full stump, and Milan comes half forward and dabs it to Curran at wide mid-off, and there is no run.
Perhaps we should have had a clue that it wasn't out because Broad actually appealed.
Yeah,
He turned around to the umpire before. Normally he
did.
high-fives Gully before he turns around.
He did, but it was the Broad appeal where he appeals just yelling at the batsman. He doesn't even bother to turn around. I mean, that's a fine for me anyway, and it's also poor parenting. Very poor parenting.
I did think Root had just about managed to talk Broad out of it.
Yeah. Broad in bowls and dabbed in the offside. This time they will go through for a single. It completes the over. It completes my spell. South Africa, after a terrible start, 10 without loss.
Yeah, we're going to have Tony Bishop on ball by ball, the Bear on tweet and me on jingles, just to and we'll have a bit of a jingle
Things
for
in
ourselves.
life are free. Just like Gorilla Commentary, we need money. That's what I want. We need money. I don't like the BBC. I prefer Gorilla Commentary. I want money. $20 for the archive. That's what I want.
Well, yes, I must say it's. I think in the green room, the Bear, Gary,
Well,
and
I've got
I,
money on it, so I'm always one-eyed.
Well, we all gave that, but when we saw that replay, you're absolutely, well done, umpire Damascena. The ball sort of squeezed between bat and pad. In comes Jimmy Anderson, up onto his toes goes Milan and steers this nicely through point. And Dom Sibley, very much the man of England's moment, although Ben Stokes gets definitely an honourable mention of dispatches, but Sibley's after that.
Yeah, it was just the merest sliver, and as I've always held, even though Broad's no more than sort of 14, 15 yards away, you can't hear that. And I don't think the umpire is hearing that. I think he's just thinking it's more likely than not that there's been a little sliver there.
I agree. Jimmy Anderson in again, and let through by Peter Milan.
I think there was
to
a
Josh Butler.
LBW given out maybe on day one where it just looked all wrong, and it was a very thick inside edge. I can't remember who the batsman was,
I think,
but it looked
yeah.
wrong. And there are those,
It was Van der Dussen. It was a very full ball by Anderson, and it did look wrong.
It jagged back in, didn't it?
Yeah, but it looked out at the same time when everyone went up, but it didn't quite look right.
Yeah, I mean, I always think of Damien Martin in the 2005 Ashes, middling them onto
Comes
his
Jimmy
back.
again, 3 slips, stand waiting. That one was a good line. And Milan, maybe a tad late, but was safely in behind it.
What do we think here about the England's decision to bat for half an hour and add 18 runs or something?
Well, my view on that. I don't mind it. I think there's plenty of time left in the match. You've got 5 sessions essentially to bowl them out.
Well, I think it was fine. Anderson's going to be in again. Right arm over, flicked nicely off his legs by Peter Milan, past umpire Damascena at square leg, and they will net themselves another 2.
The two reasons why I was against it was, first of all, Broad in particular was defending with his hands in front of his face. He could easily have squeezed a finger into the bat handle and put himself out of the whole tour, never mind the match. And secondly, I do think there's some merit in the opening bowlers just going out there, and Curran as well, going out there and having a little bowl in the lunch break.
And in again comes Anderson, forward comes Milan. So I think he's played about 23 matches against South Africa, Jimmy Anderson. 3 at Newlands, and it was in the first innings of this match that he finally got his best ever figures against South Africa with that 5
And just to complete that point there, England have often started looking a bit rusty, some long hops and taking a bit of time to get into their work. But although Broad and Anderson both hit for 4 off the first deliveries after lunch, they have looked on the money.
In comes Anderson again, and this is a good, well-judged leave. to a ball just on that sort of fourth stump line by Jimmy. So that concludes his second over. He's gone for 4 and over.
Let's get some tweets in. Nestle boy Sean T says, listening to Manny Up a Mountain in the sunshine, life is good. Spinner Grace says, cheers, I'm quite tired. I presume that's something else. Frieden Bentegit, a sports commentator in sort of Germanish, says averages really matter.
Averages do, or is he asking or saying?
Averages really matter, question mark.
Oh, so it was a question, yes. Okay.
Well, Jeffrey Boycott would say so.
Yeah, he played for his a few times, did he not?
I mean, it depends what approach you take. I think Alistair Cook's average mattered because, his job was all about accumulating runs at the top of the order.
Stuart Broad again is coming right arm around the wicket as he bowls to the left-handed Elgar.
Darren Lehman's Twitter account's been hacked, and it's been renamed.
Oh, I saw this.
Renamed "Fuck Iran." With a tweet that went out, "You fuck with Iran, I can't fuck with you."
But going back to that, someone like Adam Gilchrist, who was coming in down the order, his average matters a lot less because often he was going for quick runs or seeking a declaration or rebuilding an innings, which less
in again.
important.
3 slips and a gully. That one, it's speared in to Elgar, and he had to be quick to drop the bat on that. Broad spitting a few tacks, I suspect, because I think he really thought he had Malan in that last over, but eagle-eyed umpire Damasina was able to go through that whole process of a review and go, there you go, I told you there was an inside edge.
Right, Sean T says he's in Sierra Nevada. Roger McCann says Malan saved by the virtue of a proper sweater.
It's forward comes Elgar, pushed away to Jimmy Anderson, who's patrolling that mid-off area, and there's no run.
Roger will be pleased to know that I used to wear cricket sweaters. I used to buy them at Hackett when Hackett was a big thing in the late 80s.
Yes, it
proper
was.
cable knit.
Proper cable knit, lamb's wool.
He likes a good cable knit sweater. Mike Taylor says, am I going mad? Sibley was on 71 test runs in 5 innings. That plus 133, which was not out, puts him now on 204. Therefore, average of 40.8.
Are we talking about Sibley?
Yeah.
Well, he was not out, of course. Yeah,
exactly.
That will
204 runs in 5 innings.
In comes Broad, and Elgar just leans into that, driving it out to extra cover. Jimmy Anderson goes scampering across from mid-off.
He's taking their twos well, aren't they? I mean, some of these ones you'd have thought they amble or single, but they're certainly going for the runs.
Well, there'll be gaps in the field because England are very much on the attack, and they'll want the security, I suspect, of a fairly early breakthrough, because it can get frustrating if even if that target's a huge one, and even if it's over 100 more than has ever been done before, as the side that's bowling or defending the lead, as it were, you want the breakthrough, don't you? More Broad in. Elgar again drops the bat nicely on that. This time it just rolls its way to Jimmy Anderson, who's had plenty to do. He might have been hoping he'll get himself a little breather.
I also think that captains these days and bowlers are so keen to take out the attacking fielders that they only need to see a couple of boundaries, and third slip is then at deep backward point, and that takes a lot of the dismissals out of the game. We saw Ben Stokes set a world record or an English record of catches at second slip, and yet England quite often do not have a third slip. They have at the moment, but that's got to stay in sort of all today for sure.
Broad's giving it all he can, and he's coming over the wicket to the right-handed Malan, who just pushes that back down the track to him. Concludes Broad's second over, none for 9 for him, 17 without loss.
The absolute cardinal sin of captaincy in this situation is with when you've got 438 as a target, is to see catches go through vacant slip cordons. And you can't have 5, you can't have an umbrella cordon, but you've got to have at least 3 all the time, and probably a gully as well. And ideally you want 4 in a gully, so anything that takes the edge gets is in with a chance of being caught.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I think you're right, isn't it? Sibley's had 6 test innings, hasn't he? Or 7, didn't he? But twice in New Zealand, twice in the first test, and twice here, so it's 8, isn't it?
Is that not Fred there?
It is uncanny similarity.
Is it supposed to be a Trump mask?
No, it's not. I'm not sure what he is. Oh, it might be Donald Trump. Might have been a Trump mask, yeah.
Right.
Jimmy in again. And again, easy enough for
It'll all
Elgar
seem
just
easy
to
until the first wicket goes down.
Yeah, for Elgar to play away into the offside and take a single.
I think England have just got to be a bit braver here. I think they've got to be bowling a little bit more at the stumps. I think Anderson's just a bit on 5th rather than 4th stump, and he's a little bit short. I'd like to see him bringing the batsman forward more. I mean, I sound like I'm being hypercritical here, but this is a new ball. England are going for a win. You've got to get things right.
Well, he's operating from that Kelvin Grove end. And oh, that's taken an edge, and he's got him this time. And no, he hasn't. This time, umpire Rifle shakes his head. And, well, England are in an interesting position here because they've already burnt one review. They could burn the other one very quickly.
It's against Milan. I mean, I thought that was just an authentic pad that went through to the keeper.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. I think that might have been the conversation had in the huddle there.
Yeah, I don't think you want to burn the 2 reviews that quickly.
Don't burn them
test,
2 back to back.
Yeah, I think Crick Info haven't put up this match because this is his 4th match, and in 3 matches he had 5 innings and 71 runs. Therefore, he's had 6 matches.
Yeah, it was pad, wasn't it? It was front pad and back pad on the way through.
The 2 noises of
and the bat was nowhere near it.
But it's the 2 noises which England have heard, and it's back, front pad and rear pad.
Anderson in again. It was a good ball, and that was also a terrific delivery. He's settling into his work now, is Jimmy. That's 2 absolute corkers he's delivered up to the debutant Peter Malan.
Yeah, and Malan has left that ball really well on a quite a tight line, but I think Jimmy's just got to be that little bit bolder. And if he does get hit through mid-wicket, we'll say, well, fair enough, because if he's going to leave balls, thrust the pad at them on a kind of 4th stump, 5th stump line, just got to bring that line in a tiny bit. No movement in the air for England.
Anderson in again. Very well judged leave by Milan. Man with a decent first-class average. High score of 211 and average is over 45 in 148 first-class matches.
How many hundreds has he got?
He has, good question, he has got 32 first-class tons, Gary.
He knows how to bat. If someone can get in, and openers always get out, of course, at some point in their career, but what you want to do as an opener is if you get past 20, you want to make 100. And 3,200 speaks of a man who, when he's in, cashes
Anderson is in again. And Milan is quick to drop the bat on that, push it out to Sibley at point.
It's the better line from Anderson, that last ball, but I think he's just got to come in just a little tighter.
Well, the last 3 have all been good deliveries. He's either they've been very well judged leaves. There's the one that had the double hit at the pad. There's the next one that moved away. He's going through his repertoire, is Jimmy Anderson, too. You know, all that first-class experience. He won't have faced, absolutely 100% world-class bowling like this. Maybe, well, don't forget South Africa has plenty of world-class bowling. Anderson in, left again by Milan, who's very deliberate in that leave, isn't he?
It's a good leave, but Anderson's allowing him to leave too many.
82 miles an hour.
Well, they often bowl balls that aren't hitting the stumps, don't they? We should say hello to people on Crick Tracker. Furkan Butt says hi. Zab Aslam and Alam Zaib also say hi. Well, there's many others too, and we always say hello to you all.
We do indeed. We do indeed. Cape Town is such a beautiful ground, such a beautiful spot. I was reading, well, there's many quotes about it. You won't remember him personally, Gary, but C. Aubrey Smith, you'll have heard of him.
Oh, yes,
Aubrey
of
Smith
course, yeah.
went on to become a Hollywood star.
He
didn't
did. He led the Hollywood 11 who played cricket against
He
various
did.
touring
He
sides,
was a
including
prisoner
Don
of Zender in
Bradman's.
the 1930s.
Yeah.
This is his description of Cape Town. He said, Newlands Cricket Ground was a picture to be remembered, with its surrounding mass of pines overtopped by the Great Table Mountain on one side and the new stand covered with red cloth standing out prominently. I'll hold that thought as Broad is in. And that's just worked away to leg. The red cloth standing out prominently against the green background, the picturesque effect given on our own grounds being enhanced by the bright and varied coloured of many Malay women in their holiday attire, said C. Aubrey Smith, and I think that was from 1888, before he went off to Hollywood to become a Hollywood star and found the Hollywood cricket team.
Well, there you
go.
Ling Mao says everyone's talking about the same mistakes they made with Sibley because Cricinfo doesn't
In comes
update.
Broad around the wicket, worked off his legs by the left-handed Elgar. It's out to mid-wicket. There's no run.
Cricinfo often is not fully up to date, is it? It's usually one match behind.
Well, it doesn't update until Test match is complete.
Well, that's only on the player profiles, but if you go, for instance, to England's leading Test match run makers, Ben Stokes and Joe Root will have these innings included in that list. It's strange that they're in one database but not in the other database. But, I mean, so much is wrong with Cricinfo's website, I don't even want to start.
It's true. Well, Arthur Patricia gets it. I got skin in the game, and he quotes a tweet he made on the 28th of December 2019 when we were... which must have been the first test, and he says, for all your negativity, I will wager that Sibley has at least 5,000 test runs and an average of 40 before all is said and done.
Brought in around the wicket again to the left-handed Elgar. This is just pushed away to cover Dom Sibley, who's had a wonderful day. He must be feeling 10 feet tall, I would imagine, having made his maiden test century. I think we can agree Jimmy Anderson has 582 test wickets, though, can't we?
Yeah. Well, if you
and that is an up-to-date number.
If you go to the live score on Cricinfo, where it just has a summary with the 2 batsmen and the 2 bowlers, that is also up to date. So if you go to that, and it's got Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, it will have their Test match wickets bang up to
in
date.
again, full, and kind of squirted away a little bit by Elgar to cover no run. You get greater depth with the Crick info. I genuinely think the navigation for key facts around Test careers is easier on Howstat. I suspect they have both the same source of data that they draw from. I just prefer.
Is Howstat is that subscription now?
No, it's all free. It's all free.
Right.
It's all free and incredibly useful.
It went subscription.
In comes Broad and Elgar. Well, he had to hurry. Ended up sort of rather doing a bit of a swivel and turning it away to square leg.
Yeah,
but no run.
Broad is getting hit into the leg side. Well, not hit. He's getting nudged into the leg side because he is bowling a tighter line than Anderson. I don't think either of them are really attacking the top of off stump, and it's a boring cliche, and all commentators say it, but it does make you think why bowlers are so reluctant to aim at the top of off stump. But you're not always going to hit the top of off stump.
Nah,
why are they so often so far away?
Well, Test batsmen these days, apart from the fact they take a line further across off stump, but I mean, good batsmen, they consider one that hits off stump a straight ball, don't they? The Ibis is back. It's been chased around the outfield.
He doesn't want to go away, does he? He's a stubborn bugger. He's being Ollie Pope is the man charged with sort of gently trying to move him away from the batsman's eye line.
It's Joel Garner. It's a big bird.
We think it's very good. We christened him Nasser on the first couple of days, Gary. As in comes Broad and looking this time to come over the wicket. And literally, I was about to say, I think they should look at coming over the wicket to the left-hander and push it across him. And no sooner had I thought it than Broad had acted upon it. Extraordinary.
It's the beak, I suppose.
That was the Nasser analogy. Yeah, he's been there every day. He wasn't there the second morning, and arrived, in fact, just after lunch to a huge cheer, apparently, from the Barmy Army, who'd obviously missed him. Yes, he's a Hadada Ibis, and he considers it home, and he's completely oblivious to the cricket, or indeed to anyone trying to shoo him away.
I think he likes the cricket. That's why he keeps turning up.
Well, he gets a free spot on it.
Yeah, he's watching it. He gets a pitch side view, doesn't he? He actually gets close to the action.
Plenty of worms churned up by maybe the spike shoes.
Absolutely.
As in comes Anderson. Again, that's the line. Gary approves, nods and points approvingly, as that one is bang on a length on off stump, but met by Milan with a solid face to the bat.
Grits and Grats says, I get Curran on soon. Have a feeling it might be his day with the ball.
Not a bad shout at all. It was certainly Jimmy's first innings with that 5 for 42, best ever figures against South Africa.
In South Africa, I presume.
No, best ever figures against South Africa.
Really?
End of. Yeah, no. Indeed. In he comes again, Jimmy Anderson. Again, there's that line, but Milan sort of drops the bat on it, and it's away through cover. And he'll take a single. So our man Dean, not Edward Elgar, although he does have a sort of Enigma Variations jingle, doesn't he? If I recall, does Dean Elgar?
Not sure. Do we not jingle him up? At the
I'm
start?
sure we
Yeah,
did.
we did, yeah, we
I'm
did.
sure we did. It's just I was in the green room at the time, and I appreciate a good classical jingle
Yeah, no.
occasionally.
It's a lovely jingle. It's that piece of music with a slowly rising.
Should we try it? Here we go.
He's facing Jimmy Anderson, and to the tune of one of his finest works, Elgar steers it away to cover, and there's no run. It is one of the Enigma Variations, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's not Pomp and Circumstance, though, is it? Or
No.
is it? No.
We discussed this on the last.
I'm sure I discuss it every single time
Yeah,
we
we
play
do.
South Africa. I would
Who is
imagine.
it? What is it?
Or
None of-
every time
yeah.
he's playing.
I can give you a pop song from the 80s onwards, but give me a bit of classical music.
Are you not so much into your classical, Ben?
Nah, not a big fan. Not a big fan.
You don't like county cricket. You don't like classical music.
I'm a modernist.
You come from Watford and you support Liverpool.
Absolutely. What else was Johnny Barnes? We all know that
I
one.
don't know. What he played for Watford? As met nicely and
Ooh.
a fine stop indeed. Is
Yeah,
that young
stop
Ollie
the single
Pope
as well.
diving away to his left? Oh no, it's Don Bess.
And Elgar come halfway down the track
He did.
and got sent back.
He did.
Mrs. Fink, I like that
Mrs.
name.
Fink.
Hornet Fish. Maybe she's a Hornet supporter. She says, first time listener here, enjoying what I'm hearing. Do you publish the jingle lyrics? We don't publish the jingle lyrics.
However,
if you go to the our archive, which is available from our website for the princely sum of £20, you get the archive of every single game of cricket that we've covered, that we've recorded, which is about 98%.
and access to every jingle you could want.
Well,
Your
actually-
heart's desire of every cricketer globally, pretty much, or international cricketer, as that one is carved away again to cover, and there's no run.
Well, that's not strictly true anymore, because I don't think I've uploaded any for 6 months, and there's probably about 400 to do, because the bloody work rate of Messrs. Mogg, Peel and bloody Perco is too high.
Work rate, I think. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for, Gary? You're a man of letters.
Efficiency.
Not prodigious. No. If you're prolific.
Prolific.
Prolific. They're prolific. No doubt about that. 19 without loss. Milan on 10. Elgar on 9.
Is that half an hour already?
That's not half an hour. I think Knackle may have forgotten the extra 10 minutes we provided earlier, as that one is pushed away. They won't take a single. It's the end of that Anderson over. Are we going by time, are we? So we have had half an hour.
Yeah,
Good
pretty
Lord,
much.
have we really?
Yeah, time goes quick. Right, well, I'll read some tweets. Arthur Patricia says, Cricket Archive is a subscription, but it's easily the best. Cricket Archive is, that's where a lot of info's got from. Not Fred Titman says, Cricket Info is the go-to resource for Oman versus Fiji T20's live score. What's going on, by the way, with the hoodly-scootly about you coming in here?
But you're going on to jingles. You're listening to Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of England's tour of South Africa 2019-20. You join us an hour or so into the second session of day 4. South Africa are 20 for no loss in their second innings, with a notional target of 438, but more reasonably 4.5 sessions to survive, after England got 391 for 8 in their second innings, with Dominic Sibley going to his first Test 100. Stuart Broad is in from the Weinberg end, a right arm round the wicket to the left-hander Dean Elgar, who's in behind this, solidly blocked back to the bowler, and there is no run. I'm Knuckle Mpande, taking you through the next half an hour on Ball by Ball. Nigel the Bear Walker has jumped left to right to the jingle chair.
Yes, indeed.
And to my left, Alert is reading your tweet and Facebook and YouTube messages, Rob Sutton.
Hello, everyone.
Glorious day again in Cape Town. We've only seen a little bit of cloud cover, and that was all yesterday, but days 1 and 2 and the whole of day 4 have been absolutely wonderful. 2 slips on a gully, backward point, set a little bit further back, sort of catching cover point on a mid-off up in the offside as Broad goes wide outside off stump, which appears to be the plan to Dean Elgar. There's someone gone back halfway to the deep square leg boundary and a mid-on, and I think a long leg as well. So England not over-attacking at this stage. Peter Milan on debut and Dean Elgar very experienced, both on 10 off almost as many deliveries. It's been a relatively fluent start again by Dean Elgar, who was very fluent in the first innings. And we normally, there are an approved set of adjectives for Dean Elgar. There's gritty and obdurate and limpet-like and nuggety and so forth, but he's been shown a greater range of stroke. That's a short ball which Elgar hooks. Doesn't really time, but keeps it down and gets a single down to Zach Crawley at very long leg, bringing Pieter Malan onto strike on Test debut.
This is an interesting point from Mike Taylor. On the subject of averages for openers, I never understand why average number of balls faced is valued more. Surely the key job surely is to tie the opening bowlers and get the ball old for the stroke players, e.g. Hasib Hamid averaged 43 in tests but lasted 35 overs.
Presumably he meant doesn't understand why it isn't. It's a fair point, and I've made the point a few times with Joss Buttler, who isn't an opener but has batted 100 balls more than any other England batsman, I think, since he came back into Test cricket in sort of May 2018. No, it's a very fair point. I mean, obviously you have the same sort of base set of stats for everyone, but it is worth looking beyond the averages pretty much all the time. Broad is into Pieter Malan, who we got in the first innings at back of a length, and Malan defends off the back foot into the gully region. There is no run.
It's a good ball. Seems to go away a little bit off the pitch.
A little bit of bounce off that crack that Broad is aiming at from the Weinberg end.
I mean, that was the thing about Alistair Cook, wasn't it? I mean, everyone complained that, especially in the last year and a bit of his career, he didn't get, he got one time right at the end and maybe one sort of halfway
double
through.
ton in Melbourne.
But a lot of the time he would get, 25, 30, but he'd often get 25 and 30 and 20 overs, and that was as invaluable against new ball specialists.
3 slips in the gully for the right-hander as Broad goes a little bit wider on the crease, trying to exacerbate that angle as the ball moves away. But that was a bit fuller, and Malan defends back to the bowler. There is no run. Malan was drawn into a stroke outside off stump that he probably shouldn't have been playing at. A defensive stroke to a ball that's not going to hit the stumps is not a high percentage option. That was in the first innings. He's looked pretty solid in this innings. The man with the pointy nose and the big biceps. You see that photo of him before in his sleeveless training top before the start of the day before the Test match. My oh my. Broad back of a length. That's a good ball, and well played actually by Pieter Malan. That one spat up from just back of a length, and Malan had to rip the bottom glove away from the ball and make sure that it stayed down as it came off the top glove. He did so. End of an interesting over. Malan on 10, Elgar on 11, South Africa 21 for no loss.
Roger tweets, I think we all know where Stuart Broad is going to end up when he hangs up his boots at Stockley Park with the VAR boys, the worst judge of a review in world cricket. VAR might not still exist at Stockley Park by the time Stuart Broad retires.
I mean, certainly since Shane Watson stopped playing internationally. I mean, Broad is almost certainly going to end up in the Sky commentary box. He's a really good pundit, actually.
Yeah. And Anderson, I think, will probably end up in the media as well. Testy Test asks, are there any plans to cover the games from the Women's World T20 in February, March, assuming it's televised? It's going to be quite an awkward time for us, I imagine.
It's in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Probably
Australia day-night games, I mean, it's a possibility. Well, it's all we can say at this stage. We do have a change at the Kelvin Grove end. Just 4 overs for Jimmy Anderson, and the man who did an excellent holding job in the first innings is into the attack with his blue shades and regulation haircut.
It's this man.
Emerge from the county scene where it rises rain. It's Dominic Bess.
Right arm round the wicket to Dean Elgar, tosses this up, and a little bit of dip from Bess, but too full, and Elgar blocks back to the bowler. There is no run. Trying to exploit that rough outside the left-handers off stump. There is a slip in place, a backward point, a deep point, sort of 2 really catching extra covers. One quite close to the bat, one a little bit further away, mid-off. That one drifts into the middle leg region of Dean Elgar, and he gets a leading edge as he tries to work into the leg side, all along the ground, back to the bowler. There is no run.
I think he'll enjoy this. I think he's going to aim for that fuller patch just outside of stump, because if he gets it just on the inside of it, it'll go straight on. If he hits it, it'll turn. It's going to be
exactly
hard
right.
for the lefty.
He is aiming at that, but it got it a little bit too full again, and it ends up as a low full toss, which Elgar whips down the ground to Broad, who's set back at long on. They come through for a single. Pieter Malan will now be on strike, the right hander. Not so much rough outside the right handers off stump. But yeah, you're right. If it hits that, I think if he can get one to really turn and rip out of the rough, that'll make Elgar's job that much harder, because then he'll be worried about that.
The one that goes straight on as well, that'll pin him LBW.
Yeah, or take the edge.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the time it might turn too much to take the edge. But yeah, the illusion of turn is just as important as actual turn sometimes.
Precisely.
Slip and a short leg, deep point, cover, mid-offset part of the way back, shortish mid-wicket, long on, deep square leg, and a man on the 45 Conservative stuff for Dom Bess. Initially a little bit of turn from the straight, but fairly gentle, and Milan can defend off the back foot down to the man at short leg, who is Ollie Pope. There is no run.
I'm a fan of Bess. I like the way he bowls, and I saw the game against Pakistan at Headingley 2 summers ago.
Stokes crouches low at slip with those legs spread wide apart. That's outside off stump. Milan plays this well, forward presser, then just puts back to ball and takes the single as Stokes has to run out towards point. I have to say, I wasn't that impressed with Bess's bowling in his first 2 Test matches. I thought he was a little bit too flat. He wasn't getting... not that he was bowling sort of short and flat, but he just wasn't getting that loop and that dip. He was bowling full, but it was all very easy, slightly rolly. But I think he's got getting a little bit more action in body into his action, and he's getting a little bit more revs and more dip and turn and bounce, and that's a decent delivery outside off stump. As you say, Bear, aiming for the inside part of that rough patch. It does go on with the arm. Elgar watchfully leaves it alone through to the keeper. There is no run. Tidy stuff from Dominic Bess in his first over. Just 2 runs off it. South Africa 23 for no loss.
Leah says, come on, Dean, only a little over 4 sessions to go. Yeah, you've got to tick them off if you're the team batting last on this pitch. First mission would have been to get to tea unscathed, and well, they've still got the best part of an hour to go.
England have got to accept here that there'll probably be, there'll be a reasonably big stand. I mean, like when they got us out in the last test, for a while we were all quite, upbeat about where we were going to get
in the first innings. In the first innings, Elgar and van der Dussen put on over 100. Elgar's a very good player, and Peter Milan looks reasonably organised. This is not a minefield yet, but the pitch is doing something. England has got to be patient. Broad is certainly capable of wheeling away and plugging it in line and length for a while. That's fuller delivery as he continues from the Weinberg end. Milan drops it into the offside. Elgar wanted the single, Milan did not, and they would have been stupid to take one. There is no run.
He's left well.
He has left well. A lot of length, actually, Peter Milan, but what he does is he gets back and across, and he gets his head over off stump, which means that he can judge the leave very well. And also he's got a second line of defence if one does happen to be straighter than he realised.
Only 19 balls, and 270 have been hitting the stumps.
This is outside off stump and a fuller delivery, and Milan does take the single this time as he gets it a little bit squarer of the man at short cover. The throw comes in and hits the sort of behind the stumps on the cut strip and bounces horribly, flying down to Zach Crawley on leg. They don't take the overthrow. I mean, it's a little bit misleading for Anderson and Broad because there's been a lot of catches behind the wicket. Stokes took 5 catches at second slip, and so that sort of fifth stump channel has been a productive one. Glenn McGrath barely bowled a ball that would hit the stumps in the latter part of his career, but it didn't stop him being effective.
No, of course not. It's the uncertainty of where your stump is, isn't it? And what the ball is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the illusion of it being straight up, the illusion of movements is every bit as important as ragging seam movement. Broad goes round the wicket and goes short at Dean Elgar. He plays it pretty well. Does tend to get hit on the gloves, Dean Elgar, a lot. He does have quite low hands. He's also not afraid to take the few blows. He rides the bounce here and turns it out to the square leg region where Butler has to come round from behind the stumps to field. They come through for that single. Elgar to 13. The Brains Trust is in operation. Anderson and Broad. I'm not quite sure how Dominic Bess managed to find himself in that conversation.
Walking past at the right time, I would imagine.
But it's 2 penneth in, yeah.
Bowl very fast.
Yes. Accurately and straight.
I don't know why we just... Dominic Bess looks like someone who should have a high voice.
Yeah.
3 slips and a gully await as Broad comes in. Right arm over the wicket, back of a length, and again a little bit of lift from just on a length, really. And Milan turns this round the corner slightly uncomfortably as that Crawley fields coming in from long leg. They come through for a single. Broad looks accusatorily at the place where that ball pitched, as if to say, why didn't you take the outside edge?
Might be time for a bit of Sam Curran.
Well, yeah, I give him. I think Broad usually bowls 6. I mean, it does seem that they're going with this. Anderson's not going to bowl more than 4 overs at a time, isn't it? Because I'd have kept him on for another couple and given him 6.
It wasn't a brilliant opening spell by
No,
Anderson.
it wasn't, but there were enough in the channel outside off that
For the left-handed Elgar as Broad's over the wicket. We've got 2 slips in the gully and a short catching cover point. Again aiming at that crack and back of a length, and Elgar plays defensively off the back foot back to the bowler. There is no run. Broad is so good bowling round the wicket to the left-handers, but I think with that crack in position on the right-hander's off stump, the left-hander's leg stump, bowling over the wicket and trying to tuck Dean Elgar up might be more productive. There's 2 men back on the hook at long leg and deep backward square leg. Deep backward square leg's a good 5 or 7 yards in off the boundary. There's also a mid on an extra cover and a mid off. That's a bouncer which flies harmlessly over Dean Elgar's head, taken above his head by Joss Butler. There is no run. End of the over. Broad none for 13 off his 5. South Africa 26 for no loss after 10 overs.
Arthur Patricia says, has Peter Malan moved ahead of David Malan in the international Malan ratings yet?
No. But yes,
I'm all for an international Milan rankings. We should do that for all players who share the same name.
Yeah, well, Peter Malan does have a younger brother. He has 2 younger brothers, in fact. The middle brother is a first-class cricketer. The youngest brother, Janneman Malan, may well... I think he's actually already played some international cricket in T20 stuff. You may see that more. So there's at least 3.
It's a league table of 3.
Mm-hmm. Bess over the wicket to Peter Malan, slipping a short leg, and it's turned off from the crease by Malan to Jimmy Anderson on the 45. We've got the Anderson on the 45 and the Hadida at long leg. As Bess is in past umpire, rifle tosses this up outside off stump. Malan uses his feet and does so to good effect. Just gets the ball pretty much on the half volley and clips it down to Stuart Broad at long on. I like this. I don't mind the field that Bess has got. I don't mind having deep fielders while Bess settles into his work, and then you slowly bring the field up as Bess gets that little bit more confident.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe not at the moment, but I wonder if they'd be tempted with a leg slip for Malan.
Certainly, if you get one, we do see one really turn, then I think that might be a factor. Elgar's got a much more difficult challenge with that rough outside his off stump, but that's a little bit too full again to the left-hander from Bess to find that rough, and a little bit too straight. Elgar can defend back to him. There is no run. There's a slip and a catching extra cover in position. 3 men up on the offside at backward point, extra cover and mid off. Mid on is back on the circle. That's a better ball from Dominic Bess, better length and slower, tossed up a bit more, aiming for that rough. Elgar defends into the offside. There is no run. See the ball turn more from the main part of the pitch than we have from the rough so far from Bess. He's in a little bit wider on the crease, fires this into middle and leg. Nice loop and drift though, and a little hint of turn, but Elgar watchfully in behind it, defends back to the bowler. There is no run.
It's a little bit too full.
Yeah, just a little bit, but I like what Bess is trying to do, and he's getting some drift.
Yeah. He's got to drag him forward and get it into a determinate thing where it's hitting higher on the bat.
Yes, absolutely, or that leading edge, which is what that short cover is there for. Last ball of Dominic Bess's second over. Again, a little bit too full. We're talking maybe 6 inches or so.
Yeah.
And Elgar can defend back to the bowler. There is no run. Drinks are being taken at Cape Town, South Africa. 27 for no loss, and I think a cameraman on a Segway may have just fallen over.
I'll catch up on the tweets then while the players are having a drink. Andy Redfern. On TalkSport 2, Jared has just made a joke about the quality of Darren Goff's golf, how the mighty have fallen.
That sounds pretty Jared Kimber to me.
Yeah. Mind you, I'd like to see the quality of Jared Kimber's golf. If he's anything like his leg spin.
I imagine
erratic.
in that TalkSport 2 lot, Mark Butcher's probably a pretty good golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he plays golf lefty or righty though.
Yeah. We know Ben Stokes hit the ball a very long way on the golf course.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
TalkSport 2 before Christmas had live radio coverage of darts.
Yes, they did.
I mean, the most bizarre thing. I only listened to it for about 20 minutes while I was going somewhere. The most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
Well, they just go to treble 20. Ooh, he's missed it. It's got a 1.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think we could do that.
Yeah. He stands on the hockey with his Dutch flag coloured flights.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that. I mean, I'm not even convinced they were actually there.
No, I don't.
I think they were probably just watching it in a studio.
I think
in
it'd
London.
be a lot easier to do it off the telly.
Yeah, probably would be.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to hear anyone over the drunkards.
That is true.
And unless you were standing right next to the ball, it's from a distance, actually seeing where it's hitting the bloody
It'll all be that song that only exists at darts tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, not even 2020 cricket over here has picked that one up. Mia Katie says the Smith ratings will be one of the most competitive. Is Piggy ahead of Graham?
Yes. Yeah, as good a player
so.
as Graham Smith was, Stephen Smith is the best Test batsman of an era where there are, for all people talk about, batting not being what it was. There are some very good batters around. Virat Kohli and Kane Williamson are superb, but Smith is a level above.
And Leah says, I don't envy the poor Muppet that has to rank all the Sharmas that have played professional cricket.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean...
Patels.
Not so many Patels, but there's lots of Pereiras and...
Sings.
De Silva's, lots of Sings.
Yeah,
Yes.
Singer would be another one.
Harbhajan probably leading that list.
Would Rowett be top of the Sharmas?
I don't know, because it's hard to... Rohit Sharma is one of the greatest white ball... Probably just about, because he is one of the greatest white ball players of all time. Ishant Sharma is not a bad Test bowler.
No, he's not.
But yeah, Rohit probably ahead of that. Harbhajan Singh probably.
Bumrahs. There's only one Bumrah.
Only one Bumrah.
Mike Taylor has said he's found a picture of the bear receiving an OBE. Kept that quiet.
For those looking on, well, I'll just retweet it and you can make your own joke.
Well, I deserve a fucking OBE.
You turn it down, surely.
Yeah, I would do. Don't believe in the monarchy.
You can't accept any title that's got British Empire in the name.
No. It's rather big empire, but a rather shit one.
Well, the cricketers will be getting theirs for some of them for their World Cup efforts.
Yeah, and Trevor Bayliss.
And Trevor Bayliss getting as well. I missed that. I was hoping that James Vince will get an MBE for the 3 group games he played that England all lost.
Or Liam Dawson for some excellent drinks mixing. We're back with the action in Cape Town, and we do have a switch of ends. It was Stuart Broad bowled, 5 overs in fact from the Weinberg end, and on in his stead comes this man. 2 slips on the gully and a short leg. We'll get the tingle. Oh no, we'll get the tingle now. A little bit of lift from that crack outside off stump. Milan defending outside his eye line a little bit, but softens the hands and opens the face and gets it to point. There is no run. James Anderson none for 11 off his 4.1 overs. Yeah, we've got 2 slips on the gully, a backward point. I'm not quite sure where that man in the cover region is going. This sort of extra cover come mid off Dominic Best. We've got a mid on, a short leg set a little bit back, a regular mid wicket. 6, 7, 8. Deep square leg, I think. Possibly a deep point on a long leg. Anderson in full outside off some. That's a lovely shot by Peter Milan. A little bit over pitched, and Dom Best is probably not. Oh, he probably will actually catch up with this. It wasn't timed brilliantly or hit particularly hard by Peter Milan. Dom Best chases this and catches up with it about 5 yards from that boundary. They come through for 3. Peter Milan onto 17.
That's a good opening stand here for South Africa.
Yeah, 30 for no loss. Not much really past the bat as yet.
No. Well, the first couple of overs, wasn't there? There was a couple good leads for Milan, and then there was the LBW shout.
Yeah, and there's the odd one that's risen from a length and hit the glove. But apart from that, Milan and Elgar have done about as well as they could have been expected to do. To the left-handed Elgar, there's 2 slips and a kind of 4th slip, a backward point, that short catching cover point, the mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg as Anderson is in over the wicket. A little bit of swing this time, and that's a nice shot by Elgar, and then Broad is defeated by the bounce off this slightly sort of corrugated, bumpy outfield, and it bounces over the dive of Stuart Broad and catches up with that Betway sponge. Speaking of our friends at Betway, you can go to betway.com/GC Radio and help yourself out with some bets and help us out with some money, which is all to the good. Let's see what the odds are. That was a cross-seam delivery from James Anderson that Elgar drove for 4. That one spat up off a pretty full length actually, and wrapped Dean Elgar somewhere on the sort of back arm somewhere, and came into him as well off the seam. What did this hit? It's a fullish delivery, kind of on middle and off stump, inside edge into the back pad, perilously close to the box, and it dribbles out into the offside. There is
painful.
no run, but that one swung a little bit back into the left-hander. Yeah, right into that inside thigh pad. As Anderson is in, that one goes the other way across Dean Elgar, and he watchfully lunges forward and blocks up to mid-off. There is no run. Good comeback from the most prolific test seam bowler in the world. The odds: South Africa 17-2. No, just gone to 9-1. The draw 13-2. England 11-2 on, which is almost exactly what they were at the start of today.
Yeah, that's not changed hugely, is it?
Yeah, they won't change hugely. Until if England get loads of wickets, then England will go shorter.
Well, South Africa probably won't go beyond about 100-1,
No.
even when it's way beyond 100-1, statistically speaking. Last ball of Anderson's first over of his second spell, his first from the Weinberg end. He's at back of a length and nudged by Elgar to Broad at mid-on. There is no run. I mean, it was 7 runs off the over from Broad. South Africa 34 for no loss.
Arthur, on the subject of ranking the Smiths, yes, Steve Smith ahead of Graham, but he is ahead of Robin, who is in turn ahead of Chris. The Smiths ranked lower because of Morrissey's ongoing fascist antics.
MJK Smith.
Yeah.
Ed Smith.
Mia Katie wants to know does Mahendra Singh Dhoni count as a Singh? He
Nope.
could be ahead of Harbhajan.
No, the Singh is not often always used. Yuvraj Singh actually had a hell of a career in limited overs cricket.
Yeah, especially that first World T20.
Well, and the 2011 World Cup when he was man of the series,
Yeah.
despite, as it turns out, suffering from early stage cancer. But yeah, it's an interesting one to try and split those two. Bess continuing from the Kelvin Grove and tosses this up outside off stump. Milan defends into the offside. There is no run. He's got his length better from the to the right-hander than he has to the left-hander. Slipping a short leg, a deep point cover mid-off, set a little bit back mid-wicket, who is up and quite wide. Man on the 45, long on and deep square leg as Bess is in. A little bit faster and flatter, trying to get one to turn at pace. Milan defends off the back foot to the hulking figure of Dominic Sibley, fresh off his maiden test ton. What a fine innings it was. We waxed lyrical about it in the innings break. There is no run. Bess in. Butler settles behind the stump. Stokes at slip. Pope at short leg. This one threatens to turn, but then goes on with the arm. Interesting delivery from Dom Bess. Milan blocks off the outside part of the bat into the offside. There is no run.
Gitson Gratz says, darts on the radio is one thing, but have you ever tried playing darts blindfold? You don't know what you're missing.
Hey! Very good. Dominic Bess bowls from quite tight to the stumps and a little bit back of a length. Milan does well to manufacture the length there, going deep in his crease off that forward press. It wasn't that short, and nudges it down to third man. They come through for 2 as Sam Curran comes around from deep from deep point.
Messages has sent us a list of the England Women's World T20 fixtures. So the first game on the 23rd of Feb against South Africa. I've retweeted those for you to see.
Milan comes down the track a little bit, but rather yorks himself and can only dig this out on the bounce to Dominic Bess, who goes across to his right to field. There is no run. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see past Australia for the Women's World T20. They're so dominant in women's cricket at the moment.
And it'll either be them versus India or England, wouldn't it, in the final?
Yeah, New Zealand are pretty good. Bess in the last ball of the over. A little hint of turn, and Milan bounces one past Dominic Bess at short leg. Denley, who we've not really seen today, comes in from the mid-wicket boundary. They come through for a single. Tidy, but not yet threatening stuff from Dominic Bess. South Africa going about as well as they could ask, really. 37 for no loss.
Well,
and Manny is looming. Tony and Gary are going to come in as well. We'll take our leave for now, and we'll hear from Rihanna.
Yep. You owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills, so please go to patreon.com/GorillaCricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there is literally nothing like Gorilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/GorillaCricket.
Pay me what you want it.
Anderson in bowls. Yorker, which is clipped off his toes and very neatly fielded to that modern, deepish short leg position by Ollie Pope, who looks a natural fielder, moves easily, and Probably helps that he's built quite low to the ground, hasn't got far to get down.
Like an old school scrum half.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? 37 without loss. Milan on 20 from 42, Elgar 17 from 37. Anderson, 2 slips to Gully, forward short leg in, bowls. Line of off stump or just outside. Milan comes half forward and dabs it into the offside, and there is no run. They both looked fairly compact. The wicket not playing as many tricks as many thought it might do. But I think it's one of those that wickets that if you can get in, then you've got half a chance. I think starting on it could be problematic.
Yeah, there was one vicious ball that Sam Curran got, but not many have misbehaved today.
Anderson in bowls. Full. Milan comes half forward and plays it defensively back to the bowler. And there is no run. 85 mph from Jimmy. Whoa. 37 years of age. Good effort, Jim.
Yeah, not bad, is it? Especially a man not just coming back from injury. He looked off the pace, although he took a wicket with the very first ball of the last test. He didn't look...
in the horse racing parlance, he looked in need of the run, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Schooling in public.
He did.
A little green.
Yes, indeed. Jogging around at the back of the pack, Jimmy. He's in, he bowls. Good lead from Milan. And there is no run. And look, it's entirely understandable. I mean, they're not automata, are they, bowlers? And we all know in all sports, players play too much. And it's true in cricket as well, particularly of quicker bowlers, and particularly so if you're age 36, 37, which Anderson is.
Yeah, it's not the worst fault, but I've read some criticism. I'll come back to it after this ball.
Please do. Anderson in bowls, and Milan leaves ball outside off stump, around about the 6th stump, taken by Butler, no run. Gary.
I mean, Anderson does bear some, I think, culpability for England playing Stephen Smith into form at Edgbaston, where I think he bowled 4 overs and then had to stop, and he was going into an Ashes series without having had a first-class match. And, you know, arguably maybe he came back a little quickly in that first test. He was in need of a run, but the schedules are such, it's very hard to find him again.
Well, that's absolutely true. And Anderson, to complete his over, he bowls, and that's right on the money. And Milan comes forward and manages to stab the ball out, taking his bottom hand off the bat, dribbles out on the onside. It's the end of the over. But I'll pose this question to you. I mean, I thought that with the new regulation in place, or the new regulation as it was then, the HIA, head injury replacement, which happened in the Lord's Test, and after Steve Smith got felled by Archer. This to me is an absolute nonsense, because in that series you had Anderson, who, as you say, bowled 3 overs in the first innings at Edgbaston, and I would contend had he stayed fit, England win that game and probably win it comfortably. They don't. Okay, unfortunate, it happens. England are a bowler light. Do they get a replacement? No, they don't. Should they have got a replacement? No, they should not. Now that happens, that injury happens just by happen chance. Steve Smith has a bat in his hand and he's got eyes in his head. Best bowls outside off stump, no offer. He shuts his eyes, he takes his eyes off the ball, albeit it's a vicious ball, and he gets felled. Now through incompetence, or lack of competence, he gets a replacement, and through no fault of anybody's, just happen chance, Anderson is not replaced. Best bowls defended by Elgar, and there is no. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm not asking for a replacement for Anderson for an injury like that. Tough, it happens. I see absolutely, simply because you got hit on the neck or the head, why should you get replaced? Tough. You play one short. Best bowls, nicely flighted. Elgar comes half forward and just dabs it defensively offside, no run.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying concussion is an injury like any other injury. Deal with it, right?
That's exact. I also think it's open to abuse, because if it's your doctor, Bess in bowls, and flighted nicely and pushed at by Elgar, there is no gully in place. It was aerial for a while, went to backward point, and there is no run. If it's your doctor doing the assessment, we'll say you're a batsman has been picked, he's on toast to a particular bowler. He goes down with an injury, and your doctor, best bowls, full and it's easily blocked by Elgar back to the bowler, there is no run. He could say, you know what, you're completely out of nick, this guy's got you on toast, I'm pulling you out. I'm saying it's a head injury assessment, you've had concussion. It's open to abuse. I mean, it happens in rugby. It's open to abuse. Don't allow it. You play one short. Best bowls, Elgar defends offside, no run.
I think the thinking behind it, I've got sympathy with what you say, but to put the opposite view, is the thinking behind it is that they're trying to encourage players not to be brave, if that's the right word, saying to them that, you know, you can't see a concussion injury, but if you are concussed and you get bopped on the head again, and that could even be in the field as much as it is on the
I've got no problem.
Bat in the hand.
I'm not. I have no
Don't
problem.
be there.
Yeah, I've got no problem at all. If you get a concussion injury, you should have an independent medic.
Yeah.
It should not be an English or an Australian doctor in the Ashes series. It should be an independent medic appointed by the ICC. And if you've got concussion, you go off the pitch. That's it. You're one short. Tough.
Yeah,
There is another argument to that, and I'll
Anderson
Hold it
in
for now.
bowls and defended by Milan, half forward, up towards mid-off, no run, please.
concussion, and we saw it, seen it on a number of occasions, is a long-standing, not always immediate to diagnose thing. It can go on to day 2. You can get concussed on day 1, think I'm fine, and go out again, as Smith did, if you recall, only to find that the next morning he was being sick. And so it is to protect players in a way from themselves, and probably lack of understanding how to deal with concussion.
Anderson bowls, defended by Milan into the offside, and there's no.
And the way to do that, sorry, Manny, and the way to do that is to permit that additional rule as concussion substitutes. I don't think that they're not just picking concussion out and going, that's okay, and a hamstring isn't. They are quite deliberately,
because of the nature of
the nature of the industry,
I understand.
in the light of Philip Hughes, and head injuries and all of those kind of things, they are super careful and more careful, quite rightly, about head injuries, and the rule is part of that.
Anderson bowls, good nut then. Well left by Milan. He managed to get everything out of the way. Ball that jumped on a bit. No, I understand all that, Tony, and I don't wish to be cavalier with head injuries. That's the last thing I want to do. But I would say, I was there at Lord's when he got decked. He goes off and then he comes back on. He's been assessed by the Australian doctor. He's clearly, I'm no medic, he's clearly not at the races.
Yeah.
He ends up playing French cricket with his bat in the air, just padding Wokes' delivery straight back to him, and he was he walked for an LBW. I mean, he just didn't know where he was. Anderson bowls full, Milan defends up to mid-on. So it calls into question the independence of the doctor. The doctor's that was a poor medical decision. It was about as poor as Roger Freeman and British cycling.
So to discourage that, and to make sure that doesn't happen, although the medical profession would feel slighted by ever suggesting that it doesn't, even a doctor with a vested interest is still a doctor first, but to stop that ever happening, you give them a get-out alternative, and that's what it does.
But Anderson bowls, and it's defended by Milan, and there's no. But to see, for justice to be seen to be done, and medical sense to be seen to be done, you should, to my mind, you should have an ICC appointed doctor. You should not have your own quack there say, yeah, that's fine, Steve, you go out there, carry on batting, fella.
Having seen how they managed to get on a World Cup series and get that on air, I'm not sure I'd trust their doctors to do much, but there we go. I take your point.
Anderson bowls, and good lead from Milan outside off stump. Completes no, one ball. No, that does completely over. Good over from Anderson, and well played.
Well, let me whistle through some tweets then, if I may. On Crick Tracker, Ryan Anslow says, get the beers in. Well, fair enough, we'll do our best. Surjoy is saying hello. Sachin Bala, Jitendra Chowdhury and Ashwani Gupta are all with us. Messi Jez has kindly sent us the latest ICC rankings following Australia and New Zealand. India still the runaway leaders, followed by Australia and New Zealand. South Africa, England sort of positioned in mid-table 5th, followed by Sri Lanka, who we play next, of course, which will be interesting. Mike Taylor says, on blindfold sports, we did blindfold boxing once, didn't have boxing gloves, so went to Asda and bought a load of chickens, stuffed them with our fists and gaffered our legs to the legs to our wrists.
Yeah, had drink
They
been
pack a
taken.
punch, 6 in the ring. Last man standing wins. Much fun.
Featherweight bout, I suppose.
Best bowls blocked by Elgar, extra cover, no run. Bowls again, slightly quicker ball, and it's played off his back foot to mid-off, no run. Gary.
I mean, I was also at Lord's, and for that incident, I was in the media centre, and I had a very difficult decision to make. I'll come back to
Best bowls round the wicket, outside off stump. Gets a little bit of turn, but out of the rough, no offer from Elgar. Yeah.
I mean, even the little bit I knew, and I'm no medical expert, about concussion, is that its effects can be delayed, and I'd read quite a bit about the American football cases, of course.
Best bowls, quicker delivery in towards the pads of Elgar. He plays a stabbing defensive shot back to Bess, and there is no run.
I was about to crack a terrible joke, Gary, and you went all serious on me again.
Right.
I was going back to the chicken as boxing gloves, and I said I bet the prize money was only a paltry sum. But then you went all serious on me, so I couldn't get that in.
I'm going to continue in a slightly serious note.
Best bowls, nicely flighted delivery. Elgar covers up and defence, plays back to the bowler, no run.
Because I was in the difficulty of wanting to write that it was a bad decision by the doctor, because as you say, even at the distance I was, the other end of the ground, when he was walking down those pavilion steps, he was not at the races, he was not at Lord's.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you, Gary.
I didn't want to write that a doctor wasn't acting, according to his Hippocratic oath.
Gary, what an opportunity missed. We've now got the Hayden mid-on position as best bowls. A poor ball, which is easily clipped by Elgar, the release ball, which half volley on middle and leg stump, which he clips into the gap on the onside, and will pick up 2 at the end of the over. 5 overs from Best, 0 for 8, 39 for 0. Gary.
And nobody thought the next morning, it was no surprise when they found out that the effects had been delayed and that he was ill and everything else, because we all saw with our own eyes what had happened. So I think that does suggest, Manny, that you're right in some ways. If that was the first big test, and Marnus Labuschagne will forever be a quiz question as the first head injury substituting in cricket. It did not work at its first time of asking, for sure. So why aren't they revisiting it and being much more public about what they intend to do about it? Because it didn't work.
No, it didn't work, but I don't see why. The bottom line, I don't wish to take lightly head injuries. I take Tony's point absolutely, but that's why you need an independent medic there. If you think there's any chance of concussion, he comes off. You've got hit on the head clearly through incompetence. You've got a bat in your hand, eyes in your head, and you've either ducked into it, take your eyes off the ball, whatever. It's a batsman's error. And why should, through incompetence, you get a replacement? We have a change of bowling and we have a jingle.
We do, once I can find it. And it's here.
Is he a batter or bowler? Some chorus. What's his distinguishing feature? Some chorus. His dad's from Zimbabwe. Some chorus. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Some.
Bowls outside off stump, bowling round the wicket to the right-handed Milan, and he leaves outside the off stump and is taken by Butler.
Tony Cork says, much as I'm a proud Aussie, a ranking of second feels, let's say, overly generous. Well, they're just so hard to beat at home, aren't they? That's the thing.
Well, I think that's true of most
Too
sides
many
around
teams.
the world. I mean, there isn't. I suppose India would think themselves probably the best. Well, they are, according to the rankings, outside off stump, and left alone by Milan through to Butler, and there is no run. And they probably are the best side, test side in the world. The rankings probably don't lie, but they're not a great side. Gone are the days where you had the great West Indies side of the 80s, the really great sides, the Australian sides of the 90s and into the early noughties. There really hasn't been a world domination side since then, I would argue. Curran in bowls and dabbed into the offside by Milan, and there is no run. I mean, you could argue possibly for a very brief period of time, but a couple of years. I mean, we got to the top of the world rankings for 2 years. They were a good side then. not a great side. South Africa for a very brief period of time when they took over that mantle in 2012, I think it was.
Which we wrestled back off them when we got to the top, didn't we?
Yeah. Karen bowls, and a ball that angles, or keeps on coming in on the angle, wide of the crease. But good judgment from Milan, left alone, and is no run. 39 for none, it remains. I think he could be a handful, Karen here. I think it's a pitch that he may very well get more out of than anybody else. Being the left-hander, the left armour, coming at a different height, different angle, poses different questions to the batsman.
We saw
Curran bowls and Milan comes well forward and good block to shortish extra cover, and there is no run.
We saw the beehive of Broad and Anderson where a hell of a lot of balls were wide or going over the top of the stumps. Now, Curran is less likely to go over the top of the stumps, and he might be less likely to be wide now he's going round the wicket, so I think we're going to see him attacking the stumps.
Sorry, after this ball.
Curran bowls, and Milan again comes watchfully forward and blocks to Bess at short extra cover. That completes a tidy first over from Sam Curran.
Indeed.
Yes.
Beijing Ducks. It's been a while since we gave a Ducks prediction, but here goes. Ben Stokes with 5-4 in the second innings to top off an already great game from the big man. Arthur Patricia agrees with me, I think, saying the concussion protocol is to help cricket avoid a junior sour situation. It's not perfect. Its medical grounding is apparently questionable, but it's preferable to doing nothing. And we're going to see a very interesting change of bowling.
We are indeed. We have a jingle for this man.
Joe Denley, he's almost as old as this theme song, but Chef is gone and we need someone to bat at the top of the order.
I'm going to pose the question. I'm not sure I believe his age. He's the youngest 33-year-old ever, isn't he?
Denley?
Yeah, he looks about 25.
No.
He
I still want to know why his nickname is No Pants. There has to be a reason.
Keanu Reeves is the youngest looking sort of 60-year-old.
And actually, there's a tweet from Not Fred Titmus that could be the answer to that.
But,
I'll
is
wait
it
for this
repeatable?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Depends on you.
Anyway, he's going to be bowling.
How easily offended you are.
Not easily, I'd have to say. He's going to be bowling round the wicket to the left-handed Elgar. He's got a slipping pace and a forward short leg, and he's in, and he bowls absolute pie, which is panned out to deep square leg, and is deep square leg, so it'll just be a single. Not appreciated by the short leg Ollie Pope, because that dive for cover, as you see the ball dragged down at 10 miles an hour, and you're thinking, oh sugar. Well, he covered up, and he didn't turn his back, which is a good thing, but he covered all the important bits and got as small as he could.
I've got a comment I'm going to make about Joe Denley that you may or may not laugh out of court in a moment.
Bowls now to the right-handed Milan, again a little bit short. Not sure Milan read that. He goes back in, but he had time enough to play square into the offside to backward point, and there is no run. Slip backward point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, shortish mid-wicket in bowls, and that is tickled round the corner. I think he just about got it on the full toss. He's certainly going to pick up one. It's just one leg by he's going to pick up as Jimmy Anderson does the fielding. 41 without loss.
My comment is that Joe Root bowls a bit of part-time spin. Don Bess is the designated spinner, and there's Keshav Maharaj. I think Denley turns the ball more than anybody else in the match who's available to bowl here. He does turn his leg break.
The next ball he does bowl the legger, which is obviously turning into the left-hander, and that would have popped up into Silly Point's hand. But they don't have a Silly Point, which is fair enough because he is a bit of a part-timer, and I mean that's spat.
Horrendous.
That really did spit out of the rough. Elgar managed to play that with his box, and turned quite substantially it back into Elgar. That's a nice bit of bowling from Denley, nicely flighted, hit the dirt outside the left-hander's off stump. Gripped and turned and bounced a bit, slipped in a forward short leg.
Need a leg slip. He's in,
he bowls. Elgar on the sweep, misses. strikes his front pad outside the line of off stump. At the end of the over, Ben Stokes has enjoyed that hugely, and it's maiden over.
Yes, indeed. Now, not Fred Titmus, who is in Cape Town, simply sends a one-word tweet that says Cox. Now, that could, I suppose, be something to do with chickens as boxing gloves. It might be in response to why is Joe Denley called No Pants, or it might just be not Fred sitting there daydreaming, and that happens to be the subject of the daydream.
We just don't
pick any
know.
one of those three. Who would know? Who would know?
More detail, please, Fred.
Tucking into a Cape apple, perhaps.
Yeah.
Remember Cape apples? They used to be everywhere.
Cape apples, good lord.
I used to boycott them when I was a student.
Yeah.
Used to go in and not buy them.
Karen in bowls, a ball that shapes in towards Milan and then just holds its own, but it's wide enough of off stump for Milan to leave alone. But I like this from Karen. I think he's already, he's only at the beginning of his second over, but he seems to be in quite good rhythm here, bowling with intent. Both batsmen on 20, they battled hard, but moments of alarm. Two slips gully, backward point, extra cover mid-off, mid-on, in bowls. That is too wide and easy for Milan to leave alone.
The worry for Curran is with this round the wicket attack is that if he does drift even onto the offside with the angle, it's going to be easy to tuck off his pads for a single or two. So I kind of want him to attack the stumps, but England have got a bit of a strangle on here. There haven't been many runs scored in the last half hour.
Yeah, but I don't mind that because you only need to get one. Its angle in to hold its line. Curran in bowls wide of off stump again. Butler takes high above his head, and there is no run. It very much describes Sam Curran's haircut as modern, wouldn't you?
Boy bandish.
Mudassar Ali and Ramazan Afghan are both with us on Cricket Tracker, so hello to you. Sean T says stunning party hero. Presumably that's a discussion with someone else or where he is, but either way, I hope he's enjoying himself. I'm sure he is.
Curran continuing round the wicket, continues to bowl on a fifth stump line, and it continues the lead from Milan.
Back to the serious discussion a moment. Aidan says interesting concussion chat. If a batsman is hit and breaks a finger or hand and goes out to bat again, again it's stupid. What about if a bowler is hit batting and you haven't got one as a reserve, a vested interest to get them back out to bowl? So yeah, Aidan, I think we're kind of all saying the same thing. I think
it's the risk though that's different.
Curran bowls, and that's a good lead from Milan. It angles back in, bowling wide of the crease, angled back into Milan, but he judged it well and decided that he could again leave the ball, which he did.
It's quite interesting reading tweets when you're having to balance a serious discussion on concussion with
no pants
and chickens as boxing gloves.
All part of the fun.
There we go.
A very broad church here. I think the difference is the risk. I mean, if you've broken a finger and you get hit on the finger again, you might get a permanently damaged finger. If you hit on the brain and you hit the brain again, a permanently damaged brain. Big risk difference.
Curran in bowls, and bowls no ball, which is called early by the umpire. It's defended by Milan.
Grits and grass.
There is the run.
I'm sorry, Smokey. You were over the line. That's a foul.
Oh, it's very tight.
Oh, Lord, that was tight. Did they give it then?
Yeah, but he called it on field. I shall open up the discussion to the no
I think
balls.
there's been so many that they've completely missed, and then that one is so marginal.
The worry about that is, I'll come to it in a moment.
Curran in bowls, that's on middle and leg, which clipped wide enough for Stuart Broad at mid-on for him to be able to pick up a single. He will keep the strike at the end of the over 43 without lost Gary.
He calls that, and if the ball then splays the stumps, then that's it, because you can't.
There's no comeback.
I mean, it's just a no ball. And had Curran's foot been a millimetre or two further back, it would have been an erroneous call, and England would have been denied a wicket, which is one of the reasons why on-field umpires are so reluctant to call no balls, because it's an imbalance of,
I agree,
outcomes.
but I don't see why it's down. I think the on-field umpires have got enough to do without trying to look at the no balls. That they've got to look down the business end, batsman's end, to decide, well, LBW's caught behind, blah, 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 blah.
Well, there's something they always used to manage without a problem.
That's before all the cameras. I bet they didn't. Denley bowls and Milan dabs it into the onside, and there's no run. I mean, how many no balls did Frank Chester miss?
I mean, Wasim Akram was bowling no ball after no ball in that extraordinary spell at Manchester. David Shepherd wasn't even looking.
Denley appeals for the fact that Milan came forward and played it with his bat. And no, not I'd get on with it. Even if it did hit his pad first, which I don't think it did, he was way outside the line. Nicely bowled there.
Yeah, David Shepherd said, and I can understand. I was looking at the other end, but
particularly with technology, Denley bowls nice flight again, and Milan comes half forward and just pushes it to cover, and there is no run. With the technology that there is now, and for heaven's sake, they do it with the tennis. They used to have a net umpire. They don't bother with that anymore. It's just done electronically. You could either have the third umpire watching it and just calling it and just miking it to the on-field umpire. Wide of off stump, nicely flighted, but wide enough for Milan to leave alone. Patient innings from him, 21 from 72, taking the bulk of the strike. Elgar 20 from 53. Denley bowls shorter, flatter, and Milan can sit back and punch it off his back foot to the cover sweeper, who appears to be Sam Curran, and there is a single. 44 without loss.
Yeah, he's bowled well in this nearly 2 overs so far. Denley, he's got some real turn to the left-hander. And
I'd like to ask Ollie Pope that question if he thinks he bowled. well, he's got a brown streak.
Everyone's allowed a loosener, especially a part-time.
I just wonder what his thought was as he saw that half tracker going down to.
They have got the leg slip in there.
They have. You're happier now, are you?
I'm happier.
Oh, good. That was top of my worry list. Denley bowls, and it's jabbed out by Elgar, just playing from the crease. Not sure he's picking Denley. But he played it well enough and concentrated and just dabbed it in front of him.
I'm going to have a little run at tweets, if I may.
Please do. 44 without loss. All yours.
Grits and Grat says, competing in chicken fist blind boxing should be on everyone's bucket list. Never mind UFC, try KFC. Very good. Tony Cork says, I don't know, this is back to concussion. I don't know, I've had a few beloved, if not entirely productive colleagues that I suspect might have had their intellect concentrated in, at best, the tip of a finger. Not quite sure. Didn't we win the test in New Zealand? And Messi just says no to Alex Lancaster there. Linux Leah says, I think Denley's leg spin is less threatening than Ashwin's. So much for that jingle. Rob Sutton is answering a question somewhere else. Harry the Hadada says, Mr. Denley crushing the spin. Hello, Harry the Hadada. I'm glad you're enjoying the game. They're actually on the ground. Alex Lancaster says, you're right, they were drawn, still won most of the one-day games. Messi says England lost the first test against New Zealand. Joe Root's coming on now. He's trying everything, isn't he, Joe Root, at the moment?
He will have his jingle after this ball. He's bowling round the wicket and finds the thickish outside edge of Milan's bat. He greebles it away through the gully region for a single. I don't think Root will mind that. He'll be bowling to the left-handed Elgar, and we can have his jingle.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pit, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
More like Joss Butler there.
Root will be bowling to Elgar with a slip and a forward short leg, and he bowls nicely flighted delivery, which is driven not at full volume by Elgar out to Crawley at extra cover, and there is no run.
I think that was a leg break he bowled.
Root bowls. Nice bit of drift in towards Elgar, but it's full enough for Elgar to press forward and defend comfortably enough into the offside, and there is no run. Remains 45 without loss. England have lost one of their reviews. He's now got a silly point in. Nicely flighted from Root. Elgar comes watchfully forward, plays it on the bounce to that silly point, and there is no run.
The next Leo says, did Ashwin even bowl leg spin when that jingle was introduced?
I've never seen him bowl a leg spin. Root bowls a round arm delivery, which is driven by Elgar. A little bit of width on offer out to the cover sweeper. He will pick up a single.
It's one of his variation bowls, isn't it, Ashwin? And he's got a few tricks in the locker.
It's one of Root's variations as well, to bowl the Malinga ball. Not quite at Malinga's pace, even now. Malinga is no more than 17 stone. Root bowls, and again continuing round the wicket to the right hand in Milan. He comes forward easily enough and blocks, and that will be tea. South Africa will be content with that. A few balls that misbehave, but nothing massively untoward. They've got through to tea unscathed, 46 without loss. They've burnt up a good few overs, but they've still got an uphill battle. Any more from any more?
Plenty more tweets just before we do anything else. Yes, Arthur Patricia says, is the speculation that Denley will retire after the home summer based on anything other than his age? I'm not ready to lose him yet. Kate Holdsworth says, hello Manny and Gary.
Good afternoon.
Well, I would say hello Kate, but clearly I'm not included. Mike Taylor says, in that Lord's Test, 12 Australians batted, saving them the game, and only because of the daylight robbery the convicts retain the urn. Obviously insane, and obviously if the boot was on the other foot I'd think differently, but it's not. Messi Jazz says, fair goes Gary, you can't give the umpire a hard time because he's got a no ball call right. I agree it should be done by a TV third umpire, but after all the carry on, surely you should be congratulating him for getting it right. Seagrave Saab says, not watching today, but I'm listening to you guys when possible. Talk about being hit on the brain. Did Elgar not just use his brain to play one of Denley's deliveries a few minutes ago? Not Fred Titmus says, it's not just the front foot, unless are supposed to see whether the follow through impinges on the danger area. How they're supposed to do that while checking for LBWs and catches, I'm not sure.
Well, it's impossible.
Fair question, absolutely right. You kind of agree with him there. Mike Taylor says, did we have a hinge injury replacements when we were blindfolded smashing each other's brains out with chickens? No, it just wouldn't have been cricket. Martin Jones, I think we're there after Martin, says, would support 30-man squads for test, would ensure teams not shortchanged by injuries and raise standards, make it such that players can only be subbed back in the cases of concussion. Some teams might choose to use tactically, but same for both sides. And I think that is that. So we will see you after tea.
Very well, thanks. Yes, after a very long weekend last week, it's certainly the best part of the first half of the week.